Strap on your seatbelt and prepare for takeoff. You're about to go on a journey. It's First Contact Radio with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is First Contact Radio. My name is Josh Poet. It is the beginning of a new week, the 19th of August, 2019. Moving right along in the world, dealing with the battle that we're dealing with. This is good versus evil, my friends. You need to decide which side you're on. It's confusing at times because there are those who have chosen the side of evil that will swear to you that they are on the side of good. And then there are those who are on the side of good that are convinced that they're on the side of evil. It's not really too difficult to tell which is which. And it's not really too difficult to tell what is good and what is evil. It just depends on where your morals are. And right now we've got an issue with that in this country. And it's because this has been something put in place for a long time. None of these issues started overnight. None of these issues started with the Trump administration. These issues started years and years and years before. They're simply playing themselves out right now. So today, the first tweet of the day I saw from President Trump was about the millions of votes that were shifted over to Hillary Clinton, and instantly people are doing what they do. They tweet to tell the president he's wrong, he's a liar. And I mean, if you look at his Twitter feed, and you look at the responses that are there, I'm telling you, people have just lost their minds. Some of the comments that people make are so rude, so obnoxious, so arrogant. To see people actually threatening the president with death threats is just incredible. That people have gone that far off the deep end that they think that that is an acceptable thing to do. But they do it nonetheless. So I've got a couple articles here right off the bat talking about exactly what President Trump was tweeted out. Here is an article, comes to us from a Powerline blog. This was posted August 9th. Psychologist, Google generated at least 2.6 million votes for Hillary. Dr. Robert Epstein is a psychologist, professor, and author. He's the former editor-in-chief of Psychology Today. Dr. Epstein is a liberal Democrat. In testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee, he described himself as a vocal public supporter of Hillary Clinton. He said that to characterize him as not a Republican and not a conservative is an understatement. Epstein testified that in the 2016 election, Google generated a minimum of 2.6 million votes for Clinton through deceptive manipulation of search results. He warned that if in 2020 companies like Google and Facebook all support the same presidential candidate, they could affect up to 15 million votes. Reminder sent only to those believed to be Democrats. Now let me make an adjustment to this here because it was left out. At the bottom of this article, there is a video interview that was done with Dr. Epstein and Ted Cruz, and this exact question came up. He said 2.6 million was the bottom line, the baseline, the minimum that was affected in the 2016 election. It was up where close to 10.4 million. Okay, so 2.6 to 10.4 was the effect last time, and he feels that that effect could go even as higher, up to potentially 15 million the next time if it's not kept around. He says, I'm skeptical that Google sent anything approaching 2.6 million votes to Hillary, just as I'm skeptical that the Russians caused more than a handful of Americans to vote for Donald Trump. However, Epstein's claims of a strong Google effect seems more plausible than claims of a Russian effect. For one thing, Russian social media efforts apparently consisted of outlandish statements on social media that mirrored what others on the fringe were saying. They were a drop in the bucket, or rather the cesspool. By contrast, millions of mainstream Americans rely on Google for information without suspecting that they are being manipulated. For another, Epstein isn't just a respected psychologist, he's a liberal who supported Hillary Clinton. Epstein has no political interest in arguing that her vote total was inflated through manipulation. The parallel claim cannot be made when it comes to those who argue the Russian efforts on social media swung the election to Trump. To my knowledge, those who advance this theory are all Democrats and or Trump haters. They have a strong political interest in claiming we was robbed. Okay, I want you to check this out. Listen to the video. Listen to what he says. He lays it all out. Okay, just the things that I've been talking about. The stories that are going around in society. Google is manipulating information that the public should get. Okay? Google is manipulating information that the public receives. That's a bad thing. Imagine if the source of information that people rely on, let's say the dictionary years ago, people had a dictionary. And let's say every time you would go to that dictionary, you open it up, you found that somebody had manipulated the information in there, changed it. You wouldn't know what to believe after a while. You'd start to wonder how that could possibly happen. Well, unfortunately, it's happening because we have people at Google who are not out for the American people. They have been found behind the scenes, and the information is coming out from these whistleblowers that they are doing some really bad things. This is case in point, the election meddling that has gone on. You know, all the finger pointing wants to say Trump meddled with the Russians. We know that whole thing has been debunked. But what we do know is that the Democrats are colluding with Google, which is supposed to be providing information to us that is unbiased. Google, who, by the way, is working with China on censorship related matters, while at the same time working for America and lying to us. How many times has the head of Google been into see Congress or other members of Google, and then they've lied outrightly about what was going on there? Okay, they need to be regulated. It's long past time. It's long past time. They are no longer just a platform where people post stuff. They have actually thrown their hat in the ring. They are now a publisher. When they choose information, when they decide to censor information, they put themselves in the role of being a publisher who's making decisions on what should and should not be published on their site. Now, hey, if that's what they want to do as a publisher, they're entitled to do that. But they did not advertise themselves to the people as a publishing organization. They advertised themselves as a platform for free speech, while behind the scenes they are doing other things. So it's very important seeing this information coming to light now by a liberal professor. It's like is very important. Very important. We need to get this whole mess back in the place of looking at it from an unbiased perspective. You can't come to truth if you're in a biased place, and I can't imagine any individual out there who could see and thinks that the learning process happens through a biased manner. It doesn't. You have to look at it completely unbiased, and you have to see where the information leads. The unfortunate problem is the young people these days have been so dumbed down. I wouldn't want to be a millennial in this day and age. They've got to be the most dumbed down society that we've ever had here in America. The lies that have been told to them, the lies that they believe, the manipulations that have occurred to them. You got the system believing all the little boys out there thinking that they have to make the choice whether they're going to be straight or gay when they're in school. Absolutely ludicrous. Little kids are given the choice to decide if they want to be this gender or that gender. You have school teachers which are teaching children that there are multiple genders, and they're doing so because the school district says this is what I have to do. You know what? I remember when we hear about dictatorships and we hear about the bad things that went on, they were all just following orders too. So if you're a teacher out there and you're teaching the kids that there are multiple genders, if you're teaching young kids about sexuality and things that they shouldn't be learning except from their parents, then you know what? You are raping that children's mind. You are not a teacher, but you are a rapist of the mind. And big, strong words, I know it, but that's exactly what you're doing. The Bible talks about that. It says, woe to those who affect and hurt the little ones. It'd be better for you if you were not even born. It'd be better for you if there was a millstone hung around your neck and you drowned. The sad part is I know a lot of good people that love their kids, but unknowingly support these evil agendas that are causing harm to children. It's really disgusting. It's disgusting for the kids that they have to go through that. It's disgusting that teachers, grown adults, don't have the courage to be able to stand up and protect those kids, so they just teach them these practices, and it's really horrific for the ones who come up with these practices and push them on and on and on. There's nothing about the whole situation that has anything good to it other than a whole group of children really being messed with in bad ways. Let's turn our focus to Epstein. See what's going on here. Here's Zero Hedge. It says after allegations of drugging and rape, Epstein-Pal and modeling agencies come into focus. Following the death of Jeffrey Epstein, his seedy network of friends and potential co-conspirators alike have come into the spotlight. One associate considered to be Epstein's closest pal is modeling maven Jean-Luc Brunel, who has recently been accused of pimping underage girls around the world through his MC2 and Karen modeling agencies, while former models have accused the 72-year-old of drugging and date raping girls, according to the Daily Beast. Brunel was one of the financier's most frequent male associates. The agent appears more than 50 times on flight logs from Epstein's private plane, jetting everywhere from Paris to New York, often in the presence of young women. He visited Epstein nearly 70 times in jail, according to visitor logs, and several more times while the financier was on house arrest in Palm Beach. According to one of Epstein's own housemen, Brunel was comfortable enough to whip up his own meals in the financier's kitchen and was one of Epstein's most frequent callers. Says his name appeared in a cache of court documents unsealed earlier this month, having called and left a message to let Jeffrey Epstein know that he just did a good one. 18 years, he reportedly told him, I love Jeffrey. He has a teacher for you to teach you how to speak Russian, reads another note from September 2005 and adds, she is 2 times 8 years old, not blonde. Lessons are free and you can have first today if you call. Epstein also extended $1 million letter of credit to Brunel, which was used to invest in Paris-based elite models. According to the Beast, the Venture E Management was first registered by Epstein's attorney, who listed its addresses at 475 Madison Avenue, the same as Epstein's investment firm. Okay. At least 2 people say Brunel not only knew about the sex trafficking, he was actually participating in it. Virginia Roberts, now Gouffre, is one of the first alleged victims to speak out against Epstein after he was granted a sweetheart plea deal, claiming the legal filmings that Brunel was one of the many powerful men she was forced to sleep with in her years as Epstein's sex slave. She also accused Brunel of using his agency to find foreign girls, obtain visas for them, and farm them out to his friends, including Epstein. A lot of the girls came from poor countries, poor backgrounds, and he lured them in with the promise of making good money. Gouffre said in 2015 affidavit, Jeffrey Epstein told me that he had slept with over 1,000 of Brunel's girls, and everything that I've seen confirms this claim. My assumption was that Jean-Luc Brunel got his girls from Eastern Europe, as he procured many young foreign girls for Epstein. They were young and European looking and sounding. Okay, so there's more to this article. Here it gets into talking about how Brunel sexually assaulted her after giving her a spiked drink. She recalls him lying on top of me. She was trying to push him off. Remember trying to move but not really able to, almost like being paralyzed, and on and on. Okay, it's all described right here. Okay, bad stuff by bad people. Jeffrey Epstein signed a will just 2 days before his suicide. Jeffrey Epstein's will has been filed in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it shows that he signed it August 8th, 2 days before he hanged himself in his Manhattan jail cell, according to court papers exclusively obtained by the Post on Monday. The multimillionaire convicted pedophile was worth $577 million, 577,672,654, or about 18 million more than previously stated in court papers, while futilely trying to land bail on federal sex trafficking charges, the new documents show. The former hedge funds manager put all of his holdings in a trust called the 1953 Trust in court papers after the year he was born. It's pretty boilerplate. It's what we call a pour-over will, which means everything pours over to a trust. A city estate lawyer told the Post it's done that way for privacy. What is more unusual is the date, the fact that all this was done just days before he died, said the source who asked to remain anonymous. He probably thought he was going to take his own life, or maybe he thought he could have been murdered in jail. Okay, more to the article. Just another piece of suspicion that makes us all say, what the heck's going on there? Story just coming out today. AG Barr fires prison's chief following notorious prisoner Jeffrey Epstein's death at MCC. Last week, Bill Barr addressed the ongoing investigation into pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein's death at the press conference. We are now learning of serious irregularities at this facility that are deeply concerning and demand a thorough investigation, Barr said. There will be accountability. Last week, Barr also reassigned the prison warden and put two other on administration leave. The New York City medical examiner on Friday ruled Epstein's death a suicide. The medical examiner's office said in a statement that an autopsy and evidence confirms a 66-year-old financier hanged himself in a cell at a federal jail. Epstein was found hanging from his bunk bed with a prison bedsheet wrapped around his head, according to law enforcement sources who spoke to the New York Post. Epstein, who was 6 feet tall, reportedly secured the bedsheet to the top bunk and wrapped the sheet around his neck. Okay, so this is the story. You could tell it's fake. How can you tell it's fake as far as his death goes? Because look how quick the mainstream media has accepted it blindly. Okay? When the blind start accepting blindly the answers that they're given by their puppet masters, then you start have to realizing that there's something more going on. Not even a question. A logical person would ask logical questions, but again, we live in a society where people are dumbed down to not ask such things. It's illogical to be logical, apparently. All right, we're going to change our gear over to the Muslim terrorist in America, and we're going to start with Ilhan and Tlaib. They are two Muslim terrorists here as part of a Trojan horse. If you haven't understood that at this point in time, then I suggest maybe you get with the program. You see, the Islamic State has been spreading itself out since 622 AD when Muhammad and his followers went into Medina, claimed to be refugees. They needed asylum, and then after they were taken in, they killed the people that took them in. They raped the ones that they didn't kill, or maybe killed them after they raped them, and then they took a whole bunch of slaves. And then they continued this. And for the last 1,300 years, Islam has been spreading itself across the world by going into countries claiming to be refugees that needed asylum, and then the dumb people in that country who forgot about the previous time where this is how they snuck in, well, they let them in, and then bad things happen, and here we are. Media won't report that Tlaib and Omar's Israel trip was planned by a pro-terrorist group. Amid last week's debate over whether Israel should have issued waivers to Democrat reps Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and allowed them to promote the anti-Israel boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement from within Israel, two scandals went largely unreported. The first scandal is that Tlaib and Omar's trip was planned by the anti-Semitic pro-terror Miftah group. The second scandal was the establishment media's whitewashing of the first scandal. It fell to the elder of Zion blog to remind everyone on Twitter that in 2013, Miftah published a blood libel against Jews. The term blood libel has been applied in other contexts in recent years, but Miftah claimed Jews have murdered Christian children who used their blood for baking matzos at Passover. Historically, blood libels resulted in pogroms, including England, Poland, Russia. They contributed to the expulsion of Jews from England from 1290 to 657 AD. Jews were tried, confessions were extracted by torture. When Miftah published its lie, the final blood libel trial of a Jew in Western history was past 100 years past. When their essay was publicized, they tried to attack those who exposed them, then apologized, but only in English, not in Arabic. A lengthy article, but it's no surprise. Again, there's the word. I may not be pronouncing it right. I think it's pronounced Taxpayer. And what it basically says, if you're a Muslim, it's okay to lie to the white folks, to the non-Muslim folks, because they don't count. They're not real people. They're lower than the Muslims because the Muslims got their word, according to them, from Muhammad. And before Muhammad, there was only ignorance, and after Muhammad, there is nothing. Muhammad, in their eyes, is higher on the chart than Jesus Christ, who they do not believe is anything more than just a messenger. So they do not think and feel the same way that Western society feels about religion and faith. They have their own particular agenda, lying to the people because the people aren't like them and therefore they must be eradicated. Lying to them is okay because ultimately you're going to slaughter them anyway. So what's it matter if you lie to them first? Here's a story, another story. It's at Zero Hedge. Non-citizens commit 42% of federal crimes despite being only 7% of the population. This was from May 17th of this year. A new federal report shows non-citizens in the United States commit nearly half of all federal crimes, or more, 6 times their proportion to the American population. From 2017, data from the U.S. Census Bureau's American Communities Survey shows non-citizens comprise about 7% of the country's population, but the 2018 annual report and sourcebook of federal sentencing statistics shows that they've committed more than 40% of all federal crime. The U.S. Sentencing Commission reviewed 321,000 sentencing documents in fiscal year 2018 and outlined several statistics in the annual report. A breakdown of the crime report shows 90% of immigration crimes, or about 21,835 cases, involved non-citizens. But they also committed other crimes at far higher rates than with their 7% proportion of the population as a whole. Cases involving drug possession, for example, were nearly evenly split between citizens and non-citizens, with 361 and 339 respectively. In other words, non-citizens violated federal drug possession law at a rate roughly 7 times higher than citizens. Statistics were similar for violations of national defense, with 30% of cases involving non-citizens, as well as money laundering at 27%, drug trafficking at 24%, murder at 18%. Other crimes committed at high rates include kidnapping, fraud, theft, embezzlement, extortion, racketeering, burglary, assault, commercialized vice, and environmental crimes, amongst others. So, considering these statistics, one has to ask yourself, why is it that liberals are so wanting to have these non-citizens come in when they cause so much violence? Are liberals really that uninformed? Well, if they're only listening to MSNBC or CNN, they most definitely are. If they went through the American school system, they most definitely are. They've been taught to be dumbed down and turn a blind eye to these things, which are not protecting their families one iota. All right, today, Trump defunds Planned Parenthood. Abortion biz loses $60 million in taxpayer dollars. The Planned Parenthood abortion business announced today it will officially withdraw from the Title X program, costing it $60 million in taxpayer funds because it refuses to follow a new Trump administration rule that requires it to segment out its abortion business from legitimate health care if it wants federal funding under the program. Because the abortion giant is withdrawing from Title X, Title 10, the $60 million in taxpayer dollars it received annually can be distributed to groups that engage in legitimate women's health. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals late Friday rejected a request from more than 20 states, Planned Parenthood, and American Medical Association to block the new pro-life rules that Planned Parenthood is refusing to follow. Leading pro-life groups have praised the Trump administration for prioritizing women's health ahead of abortions. This action adds to the president's record of defunding the Planned Parenthood abortion company. Well, what is abortion? Abortion is where you abort the child, but ultimately what it is, you're killing the kid. It's two adults or two people have gotten together. For the most part, they've created a child that they don't really want, and then they just think they can just dispose of it because they don't value life. What you're ultimately doing is you're providing a blood sacrifice to Moloch, to the forces of evil when you do this. You don't like me saying this? I don't like you doing abortions. I don't like you killing the babies. King Herod wanted to kill the babies and went out and sent his armies out to go and do that. It's an evil practice that has gone on a long while and for some reason is embraced by the left. Planned Parenthood and racism. Planned Parenthood has a long, well documented history of racism, beginning with its founder, Margaret Sanger. More African Americans have died from abortion than AIDS, accidents, violent crimes, cancer, and heart disease combined. And in America today, a black child is 3 times more likely to be killed in the womb than a white child. Since 73, abortion has reduced the black population by over 25%. Planned Parenthood operates the nation's chain of abortion clinics. Almost 80% of its facilities located in minority neighborhoods. About 13% of African American women are black, and they submit to over 35% of the abortion. While these statistics are shocking, they are embedded in the history of Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, was active with the Ku Klux Klan and the eugenics movement in the beginning of the 12th century. You know, if you are black, a person of color, and you look at these statistics and realize that your population of your race has been dwindled 25% less because of this, and you don't consider the possibility that there was racist intentions here, then you know what? You might as well just stick your head in a hole in the ground and just leave it there because you are not paying attention. Okay? There's plenty of information out there showing that Margaret Sanger wanted to kill the babies. Not just the babies, but the black babies. Here it goes. In a letter to Dr. Clarence Gamble, she wrote, "We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." Oh no, so they had to change it to make it sound more appealing. So you want to bring your baby there. Let's see. It says she accepted an invitation to talk at the women's branch of the Ku Klux Klan, was escorted to the platform, introduced, began to speak. In the end, through simple illustrations, she believed she had accomplished her purpose. A dozen invitations to speak to similar groups were offered. Okay, you can go more through here. It's evil what this woman was about. And here's another article by Dr. Alveda King talking about a similar issue. It's a big problem. Blacks are being targeted. If you are out there, and I say this to the white people, if you're a white person and you support Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood is an organization that is targeting blacks, that makes you a racist eugenicist who wants to see black babies murdered. Whereas those who are wanting to stop the practices of abortions, they're actually wanting to protect the babies. So I would say this is a good time to find out whether or not your head is on squarely by whether or not you think killing the black babies is good, because that seems to be what the whole program is about. Turn a blind eye to it if you want. I'm not going to. The information is there, links are there. Check out the stories. Don't take my word for it. Think for yourself. I know it's a concept that is not pushed a lot in this day and age to think for yourself, but I'm going to push that right now. I would like you to think for yourself, folks. Okay, there's many that listen to the show that already are thinking for themselves, but for any new ones that want to come in and throw dirt at me for what I'm saying, I really don't care. All I want to see you is think for yourself so you're not making dumb decisions that are short-sighted and allowing part of humanity to be hurt. It's not really that difficult. But the reason we've got these problems, in my opinion, is we turned away from God as a whole. And the only way we're going to fix those problems is when we turn back to God, when we realize the value of life, when we realize the value of this gift of life that we have. So let us just pray at this moment, this time, that minds can be opened, hearts can be opened, that there could be more compassion in the world, and we could learn to meet each other on a level field of understanding so we can come to the solutions to the problems rather than fighting over what is the right way to go. Trusting in God will help us get us there. All these things in Jesus' name, amen. That's it, my friends. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Have yourselves a great evening. Talk to you soon. Think for yourself. God bless you. Peace. I'm out of here.